Hey everybody, this is Liz Davidson from Beyond Solitaire, and I have an awesome guest tonight. I have AJ Porfirio from Ryder Games. How you doing, AJ?
Hey, doing all right. How are you, Liz?
I am all right. I'm looking forward to just hanging out for a bit. Hello everybody in the chat. Glad to have y'all here as well. So, AJ, you're a baseball fan. How are you feeling about the return of baseball?
I'm actually, our kids actually just finished their baseball season. So I'm actually, from that perspective, a little burnt out, but I'm glad the big leagues are going to start having games. So that's cool.
So I actually do have a question for you about, so do you also play baseball related board games? And if so, what's your favorite?
I've played a few. I have Baseball Highlights 2045, which I really like, and Bottom of the Ninth. From Greater the Game / Dice Hate Me. That one's fun as well. So probably those two.
Yeah. Dare you say which you like better?
I think I have to go with Baseball Highlights 2045.
That's
the two. Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna assume it's a good choice. I have not played Bottom of the Ninth. I hear good things, but Baseball Highlights 2045 is one of my games that I give a huge rating to. I really love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. And people, even people that don't like baseball, really like it. So you don't have to necessarily even be a baseball fan to enjoy that one.
Yeah, I actually did. So that's one of those games too, though, that I actually have bought everything for. I just had to have all the starter teams, all the everything. I might have my own little World Series this year. I like to do that.
So. Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we actually have our first question from the crowd. Kabuki Kid asks AJ, what is the first solo game you ever played, and what is your all-time favorite?
Oh gosh, the first. I mean, this is kind of cheesy, but I think it might have been my own zombie game that sort of got me in this whole thing, which is If I'm Going Down. I didn't. That was when I was getting back into the hobby. After a long sort of hiatus, we started our family, and it was in college and grad school and all this other stuff. But the first one, I mean, I definitely remember Friday being the first dedicated solo game, and I just thought that was the coolest thing. And that actually, I drew a lot of inspiration from Friday for Haas's Negotiator.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to play those again and see if I can feel the influence. All right, so Amanda Panda has a question. She says, AJ, what's your favorite snack to eat while playing games?
Whiskey.
This is actually Dice rough, Tower, AJ.
Usually I'm drinking bourbon or whiskey. I don't know. I don't do a lot of eating, I guess, while gaming. I do definitely have a beverage or a bourbon or a beer. So yeah, it'd have to be a liquid snack, I guess.
Do I snack much on a game? I think no. I'm usually only a beverage person too. I usually move away from my games to eat. I'm a unsweet iced tea person, so I just knock this out before this.
Yeah, I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You gotta make sure if you come into the South, you gotta make sure you say unsweet, because they'll give you that southern sweet tea that's gonna give you a cavity in 5 seconds.
Yes, they will. I think it's so funny that instead of having you can say sweet tea, but you have to say unsweet tea as if you unsweeten it to get it, which I think is really funny. I'm a fan.
Oh, there you
go. All right, let's see. We got some new comments. Somebody says, what are you most excited about when it comes to Final Girl? Yeah, let's talk about Final Girl.
Yes, we're very excited about that, as are, I think, a lot of people. We had a very successful Kickstarter campaign for that one, and I think that the theme and the fact that it's solo only is really resonating with folks. I'm very excited. To me, the most exciting thing about it is the modularity aspect of it. I mean, you can mix any killer with any sort of location, and each feature film box comes with a killer and a location. So the more of them you have, the more variety you get actually out of the game. And so we're in development mode with some of that, and I just started internal testing on the Frightmare on Maple Lane feature film box, which is the Nightmare on Elm Street inspired feature film box, and I'm really excited about how that one's gonna turn out.
So, are you a big horror movie fan?
I am. I think so. I mean, I love horror movies. I've watched a lot. I don't know what counts, I guess, as being a big fan. I'm probably not a hardcore, like, every night watching a horror movie type of fan necessarily, but I've definitely seen my fair share and love the genre. So, sure, I'd say yes.
Yeah, actually, I love the game Final Girl so far, what I've gotten to sample of it, so I'm really excited about, getting the full thing, but I actually am a huge chicken when it comes to watching horror movies. So, interestingly, I have some distinctions, though. Like, I can watch anything that's about the supernatural and not be too freaked out. Like, I'm not afraid of demons or ghosts or any of that, but slashers where an actual person is hurting another person, I get really, agitated. I have a really hard time with those.
Yeah, my wife she is not a fan of most any. I mean, she'll do some thrillers and things like that, but yeah, anything with some serious sort of murder and blood and gore type stuff going on, she's out on that. So I have to sort of find my, when she goes to bed or we're not watching something together is the time that I might be able to watch a horror movie.
Yeah, my boyfriend's funny because he loves to watch horror movies, and I really don't. But he will often do it when I'm in the house, but in another room, so that he can bug me about it, try to get me to watch it with him.
Yeah.
But we both like thrillers. Actually, we watched Kiss the Girls this week.
Oh, yeah.
That older, Alex Cross
thriller.
It was good.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great chance to cuddle with your guy. I mean, come on.
But I can handle bad things with a sense of mystery, I guess, but not just pure gore train.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
But one thing I liked about Final Girl is of the two, sample adversaries that are out. One of them is a poltergeist, and I really liked the way that she was done. So how did you make different design decisions to make a ghostly apparition horror bad guy work, as opposed to somebody who physically moves around the board, with a body?
Yeah. So Evan, Derek, and myself co-designed the system of Final Girl. And we've all sort of each taken a lead for the different killers. Evan sort of took the lead on Hans, which was the first one, and he's sort of a Friday the 13th inspired killer. And I did the poltergeist, and I have this I guess habit when I design to push the limits on systems and try to do something different and try to make you've played a lot of Hostage Negotiator, so you see how the abductor packs change things up. And so I was like, even though we sort of have the core game, which is you win if you kill the killer, I was like, well, a poltergeist you can't attack, right? It's not something you can damage or but I love the movie Poltergeist, and I was like, man, I want to see if I can make this work. And I love the idea of the haunted house as a board.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was really kind of tested the limits, and that one is different, and as will be Terror from Above, which is going to be the movie. If you remember Hitchcock's The Birds, it's inspired by that movie, and so that one's going to change things up as well because, again, you can't kill a swarm of birds you can kill one or two, but they're going to overwhelm you. So the premise of that one is you have to save a certain number of people. And before the birds are going to overwhelm the board. It's a matter of can you save enough people and get out before that happens. So Yeah, it's just something I really like to do. I like to push and
Hmm.
do different things. And so, you know, of the three, I guess that I'm sort of leading the design on, the other being Fright Round Maple Lane. I'm doing some different things. Maple Lane will be sort of back to a killer, and you got to kill them, but
Yeah.
even within that one, we're doing some different things. So they're all from the same system and use the same cards, but they're each hopefully going to have a different feel. And then when you combo that with the fact that you can play the birds in the haunted house, or the birds in the camp, or the birds on Maple Lane, like they're or any other killer combinations, it's just gonna. I think what was the math? I think there's 30 different combinations that you can play with these first five feature film boxes in the birds expansion.
That's wild. That's a good thing. All right,
Yeah,
so
it's a good thing, but it's a hard thing for testing.
that I believe. I'll be happy to see the results of all of your work in my playtime. All right, so Glenn from Borgans and Berman has a hostage negotiator question. He wants to know, will hostage negotiator ever feature a hostage so annoying that you try to give them back?
uh, I mean, yeah, you could do that, I guess, or just maybe leave them in there with with the abductor. Yeah, no, that's funny. Hey, make a fan designed abductor pack, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, for me, the one that's closest to that, it's not about annoyance exactly. It's that, you want the ones that get Stockholm syndrome and they want to stay with the
Yeah,
abductor. That was a really interesting scenario to play. I really, really liked that one.
yeah, that one's tough too. But yeah, that's actually everything I'm talking about is inspired by a movie, it seems. But that's inspired by there's a movie with Samuel L. Jackson where he's sort of framed and he takes hostages, sort of basically what the same thing the pack's about.
Mm-hmm.
That's why in the game I call him Lieutenant Jackson as sort of an homage to Samuel L. Jackson in that movie.
I need to see that movie now. I'll be like, oh yeah, this is just like that game of Hostage Negotiator I
Yeah,
played
yeah.
instead of the other way.
Yeah.
All right, so Kabuki Kid wants to know, when will the Tin Man promo be printed again for Hostage Negotiator? The completionist in me is asking.
I don't know what that is. No, I'm just kidding. It's a secret. It's actually a secret promo card for Hostage Negotiator, which I guess isn't that much of a secret anymore. There is everyone. If you have the career expansion, there is actually an opportunity to get the Tin Man in every copy of Hostage Negotiator Career. You just have to play it and find out where it is and how to get it. So the thing with the Tin Man is I've said from the beginning, you can never buy it. It has to be earned. And so before Career came out, I did a lot of stuff on BGG where, it's sort of like little online puzzle type things. And the first 10 people that went and did it, I'd send them a copy of the Tin Man. But now, since Career's out, that sort of is the avenue for folks to be able to get that card.
Ooh, that's really exciting. I have Career waiting in my to do pile. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, the reception's been great. I'm really really happy with how it's turned out. The only I guess thing that's a little bit of a bummer for me is, I mean, it's everything in it is sort of a spoiler. So there's not been a ton of content coming out, but the ratings and feedback on the Kickstarter and everything has been really really positive. There's one French guy that has actually filmed he's been doing his career, and he'll do a session, and so that was I don't speak a lick of French, but I'm kind of watching him. I've been watching him do that, and it's not. He does actually read the cards in English first, and then in French he translates them because it's obviously just in English. But he's playing it for a French audience. So I don't know. I found that cool. It was fun, just sort of watching.
That's awesome.
Picking out what I can understand and following along.
So, do you think that career, like, does this represent the end of Hostage Negotiator at this point? Do you feel you've done everything that you can do for that game system? Or do you think that there's still a little bit of the call of the Hostage Negotiator in you to design more?
I mean, I definitely feel that call. But on the last Kickstarter, we sort of said, hey, this is sort of the culmination of everything in the system. So there's no current plans for any additional content, or at least not any additional official content. But man, yeah, it's been hard because I could make stuff for that game probably forever and still love it. So I'm not going to say there's never going to be anything else, but for the foreseeable future, at least in the near term, yeah, probably not. But I mean, not saying anything, but the 10-year anniversary, it will be in 2024. So,
oh man,
who knows?
But actually, one thing I like about your company is Van Ryder tends to pick a game or like a fleet of games that you guys develop very intensely. So Hostage Negotiator has gotten a lot of attention. I can see Final Girl is something that you probably have a pretty long developmental plan for, I would guess. And you've also been very dedicated and efficient about getting a whole lot of those graphic novel adventures out onto the market. Is that something that you set out to do? Like, are you looking for games that you invest in hard and for a long time? Or did it just happen that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of... I mean, we make the kind of games that we want to play, I think is what it basically comes down to. And we've sort of stretched that a little bit for some different things. I mean, like, Saloon Tycoon, which we did a few years ago, is sort of almost, pretty much is a Euro-style game. And we try to ingrain as much theme as we could into that. But we're really well known, I think, mostly for our thematic games. And I think that's what we're best at. So you're going to see a lot more of that. We're very much, we sort of know what we're good at now and which of our games get the best reception. And so we're going to really sort of push on that and lean into that. The graphic novel adventures, I mean, they're a licensed product, and man, that all sort of, it's worked out great. When I discovered the first one of those, and I said, man, we got to do these if we can. And I didn't really think that we would be able to license them, but it worked out, and I actually have the pre-production or the production sample of season 3 right here. So
yes.
Show
and tell.
Yeah. So these are, this is season 3. So if you don't know about these, we've had 3 seasons of them. There's 5 books in each season. And these are basically choose your own adventure style graphic novels. But the cool thing is you're actually looking in the frames, trying to find hidden numbers. You have stats, you have character sheets. This one, Lily Van Helsing, you're actually a monster hunter. So you could see, I'll show, there's character sheet right here. But like, each one's a different theme. It sort of all has the same core system, but they all have their different twist on it. So for season 3, so we have Lily Van Helsing. We have Your Theme Park, which is really cool. You actually get to build your own amusement park, and it actually has some cool mechanics in there where you can play multiplayer if more than one person has the books or that book. The third in the series of the Pirates books. So there were 2 that came out in season 2. Hold Up is our most mature adult-themed one we've done so far. It's essentially like a Grand Theft Auto graphic novel adventure. And then we can't have a season without a Sherlock book. So the Sherlock book for this season is Sherlock and Jack the Ripper. So yeah, and if you're interested in the other 10 from season 1 and 2, all of those can be found on our website, bannerhuntergames.com. And that's the end of the commercial. Back to our regularly scheduled program.
So in addition to the regular graphic novel adventure seasons, you've also put out the Sherlock Holmes Baker Street Irregulars collection. Is Sherlock your favorite from this series? Is that do you just love the Sherlock books the most? Is that
it's almost like I anticipated what we'd be talking about, isn't it? So it's not what necessarily I love the most, but all the authors of these are from the French company Macaca Editions, and they very much seems like love Sherlock. And I mean, everyone loves Sherlock, right? But this one, yeah, this one's the new cooperative version of these books. So if you'd rather play 4 players or up to 4 players, basically the way it works is each person gets their own character, and you're going through this same sort of graphic novel adventures together. And depending on who your character is, you might see or be able to do something that other characters can't. So for example, like Vicky, she can get to places where others can't. So you can see out here, she's actually climbed up a light post, and she can start to direct people through the streets of London. That's one example. Ike is sort of he's the brawn, right? So if there's a scrap or something, he may be able to go sort of fight your way through an alley you couldn't get through if you didn't have him with you. So it's this amazing system. The first one of those that we did is called the Crusoe Crew, and that's more of a sort of treasure hunting. But they have puzzles in them, mysteries you're solving, exploration, and they're really great for all ages. Especially, I mean, if you have kids that are on devices all the time, like mine. I was amazed at how good these games were at getting them off the devices for a little bit. So I'd recommend those.
Nice. All right, Glenn has another question for us. Hostage Negotiator has one of the most unforgiving yet thrilling dice rolls in the biz. Maybe right up there next to Death Angel. What is the most punishing game you love that is not yours?
That's easy for me. It's This War of Mine. Like,
ooh, yeah.
I don't even think I've ever beaten the first scenario of that. Maybe I'm just not good, but I feel like it's really hard. But I love that's like the theme and how it works and the stories it creates. I love it. So may never win it ever, but I do enjoy the experience.
Yeah, I like you are a thematic games person. So we haven't talked about this. So do you like very thematic games? Do you also enjoy historical games?
Yeah, I do. I really enjoy one I really enjoy is Freedom the Underground Railroad by Academy Games. I think that one is really awesome, and actually you can learn a lot from it historically. A lot of historical games, I think, are sort of war games, and those are cool too, especially if they sort of stay true to the way things happened in history, or at least as a backdrop. I wouldn't call myself a big war gamer, but there are definitely some that I like. I mean, obviously you and I are big solo gamers, Liz, so I don't know if you've ever played it, but like Ambush, I finally played that not too long ago, and it was awesome, man. I loved it.
I'm making a note that I should play that now.
Well, it's hard to get, so if you don't have it, it might be tough to track down, but
I will beg.
Really cool. It uses it's an old design, but it uses like a paragraph style book thing. It's really nifty, kind of how it works.
Interesting. So the last couple of games we talked about have been kind of games that are the closest to creating like an emotional, I guess, gut punch. Games that are not really easy in terms of how they make you feel. What do you think is the potential for games to manipulate your emotions that way, especially compared to something like a novel or a film?
Yeah, it's one of the things that I want most out of a game particularly that I design, but that we make in general as well, which is to draw an emotional response. I always say and think that it doesn't necessarily matter what emotion it is, but I feel like I've succeeded with a thematic game if it creates some kind of emotional response. So even though, I'll give a great example. It has happened a number of times with Hostage Negotiator where I will see some kind of feedback or comment on a rating. It basically says something to the effect of, couldn't handle the hostages getting killed, this game's not for me. But I actually really, really, really take that as a huge compliment because, like, you're getting upset that some little yellow meeples are getting killed, like, in a game. Awesome. Like, I feel I nailed, if that's what's happening, I nailed the emotion, whether maybe it was a negative emotion for that person. I'm not saying I like that, for people to feel bad or anything like that. I don't. Right. But from the perspective of, I was able to, from some cardboard, dice, and pieces, draw out such a strong emotion. I take that as a big compliment. But it works all sides. Like, there's joy, there's competition, there's some game, if it tells a great story, it might even make you sad, or at least momentarily feel sad for a character, or just the surprise of the mechanics even, right? It obviously isn't just always theme. A super incredible, nifty mechanic that just like, man, those engine builders guys out there that love those kind of games when something really sticks, landing there, like that too. So that's what we're trying to do, right? Is create memorable experiences and fun at the end of the day. And fun is different for everyone, but as thematic designers and publishers, that's really high up on my list of sort of what we're trying to do.
Makes sense. All right, so Kabuki Kim wants to know, what is the heaviest war game you like?
Man, I'm not sure I've played a ton of super heavy war games, so that's kind of hard for me to answer. Let me think about that one. That's a good question.
No problem. Yeah, for me, it's probably the heaviest game I've really had a good time with is Pendragon so far. But okay. I gotta tell you, like, eventually I'm going to pick up an Advanced Squad Leader intro pack. I just know it's gonna happen. I don't know when, but eventually I will not be able to resist that little call in the distance to do something crazy. So
yeah. I did notice, I think someone said they couldn't get on our website. I just checked, at least on my mobile, and it worked. I did get a report a week or so ago that, like, someone from New Jersey, try as they might, could not get on it. So if you're from that area, could you just, like, speak up in the comments and let me know? But I don't know why it should be working. So keep trying, I guess, or try again a few minutes later.
Someone's taking it hostage.
Yeah. I was pulling my hair out when that guy contacted me, and he said, I think one of his friends too, and we were trying everything, like different browser, and we asked sort of folks like, hey, is anyone having trouble? And no one else was really having trouble getting on. So I wish I knew what that was, but yeah, I'm not having any problems right now, so hopefully it'll get worked out for you.
Let us hope.
Trouble.
So I have a question. So for Hostage Negotiator, we'll go back to your early days. When you were inspired to make that game, were you inspired by movies that you like to watch, something like Final Girl, or is that a career that you think would have been cool and, like, in another life you might have done it?
I love just general negotiation. It's, I think, one of the things I'm really good at as a publisher, actually. But really what happened with Hostage Negotiator was I knew I wanted to make a solo only game, and I was trying to think, I wanted a unique theme that there wasn't a game for that theme. And I thought about, I was like, what's a really dramatic sort of experience, and like something that it's just like super intense. And I was like, well, let me think of some movies. Like, what movies are very intense and sort of thematic? And is there something that games aren't really doing? And I thought of sort of the hostage negotiation genre of movies, and I was like, oh man, like there's nothing like that out there. And I think a big part of that is like it'd be really tough to do a multiplayer game with that theme, because I don't know about you, but I don't particularly feel great about playing a hostage taker that needs to be, So, but I was like, that's perfect for a solo game because the game can be that, right? The game can be the bad guy, and the game, there's no emotion in it. A player's not having to make this decision where like the best gameplay move for me is to kill this hostage, but I'm killing a hostage, like that feels terrible. So it just was like, oh man, I gotta pursue this and make this work. And I always wanted it to be more cinematic than a simulation of like real life. It's more like trying to be these great hostage movies that you watch, and you at least have that sort of separation from the. I mean, it's a serious, very serious content matter, but I think I did some very intentional things. Like I didn't want the hostages to have faces or names, so there's no faces or names on the hostages. They're just yellow peoples, and I kept them generic. I just wanted to be very intentional about that. I didn't want some person in real life went through some terrible tragedy and their name was whatever their name was, and I put a name on a hostage, and that brought everything back for them. I didn't want any of that. So while it's very thematic, the sort of hostage side of it is abstracted.
Nice. Fun story. The only YouTube video I've ever uploaded that got flagged for review was Hostage Negotiator, because YouTube automatically thought that it was going to be about something really violent and horrible, and I actually had them review it. I was like, it's a board game, I swear.
Sorry for the headaches.
No, that was funny.
That's hilarious.
So Scythe Noir wants to know, so he loves horror and jumped on backing Final Girl. What horror games do you like?
Well, I mean, Betrayal was one of the ones I played early on when I rejoined the hobby. I guess probably 10 or 11 years ago. Not that I was always a gamer, but I got back into board games then. So love that one. Arkham Horror, I prefer second edition of Arkham Horror. I know it's more complex and a little more fiddly, but the areas of complexity are some of the things I really enjoy. So those two. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, Nemesis. I don't know if we'd call that a horror game, but that game's amazing. So yeah, there's three good ones for you.
All right. And then Kabuki Kid has another question. She wants to know, are you a role player? Any pencil and paper RPG experience?
So I can't say I currently am, but I grew up on D&D. My mom brought me home the red box when I was, I think, in second grade, and I just devoured it. And we moved, and I had a couple friends, and that's pretty much all we did. So I have a lot of experience with RPG in my younger days, but I don't. The way I would like to do them is to do a long campaign, and that's so time consuming for me. It's just so tough to be able to do that.
So does that impact your design as well? I mean, are you aiming for games that don't take up too much time for busy people, and is that part of your philosophy as a publisher?
I don't know if I'm consciously doing that. I mean, but definitely Hostage Negotiator. I mean, it was definitely a goal of mine for it to be playable in under 30 minutes. And even the campaign with Career, I mean, it's a probably 6-hour campaign or maybe even shorter. You can get through it, which there's not a lot of campaigns out there that are fulfilling that can do that. And I feel like I hit pretty good with this one. And I guess that is a little bit driven by I love campaign games, but it's very rare that I even get to go through a small percentage or half of them, or much less finish them. So I guess one good thing, not that anything's really good about the pandemic, but I've been playing a ton of Gloomhaven, which is probably my favorite game. I love it. Been playing a lot of that solo, so I'm committed to getting through that one day. One day. But yes, I do like shorter play times, but I'm not afraid of a big, hefty, complex, long game either.
feel that. A true Omni gamer. Hey, you just have a compliment, so I'm just gonna let you know. David Thompson is here. Hi, David. And
David, I love David.
he wants to say that you guys are absolutely rocking it for his family. Baker Street Irregulars is the most fun that the Thompson family's had together in a long time.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, no, I got to meet David in person finally this year at Tennessee Game Days, which was kind of pretty much one of the last conventions before those all started getting shut down. And yeah, he's a great guy, and he's so successful with Undaunted and all of his other games. So thank you, David. That means a lot coming from you, and I hope you and the family are well.
Aww. All right. So, Kabuki Kid's got a rough question for you, man. She wants to know how much work was put into making sure the book bindings are more secure going forward for Van Ryder.
Well, we actually, so I don't know how much of the story people want, but I'll just say we haven't had any binding issues for several printings now. The very first printing, we had some issues of season 1, and we switched manufacturers, and then we actually printed season 1 second printing with a different manufacturer, and the bindings were fine, they're good, and there were a few other things that weren't perfect for us, but they're great. But now we've landed on a company called Avenue 4 is doing all of our printing, and they're stellar. I mean, the books are great. If you have season 2, those are Avenue 4, and we've had no binding issues at all. And then the crazy thing was, we got all that solved, and then Crusoe Crew came out. Crusoe Crew is a little bit different. Not to go too much into boring logistics stuff, but our partners print it for us, so we have very little control in terms of the factory doing the printing or any of this stuff. And they sent those, and we had some issues with the first printing of Crusoe Crew, and we were fortunate enough where they actually reprinted the entire print run and sent us replacements. So if anyone has issues with those, we've replaced them, no questions asked. Of course, it costs us shipping, and that just is what it is. But no problems so far from anyone with Sherlock. No problems with season 2 or 3, and the newer versions of season 1. So I guess the answer to the question is we found new printers that didn't mess it up. And this publishing thing is not easy. We have zero control over. Obviously we check and we get preview copies and we get production samples, and there's not much you can do when those that they send you are good, and then there's issues in the print run. So we just try to do our best to make it right. So if people have issues, we replace them. But yeah, so that's how we did that.
All right, so one question leads to another. Lego Assassin now wants to know, what would you say is the most challenging part of the creation of a game, from design to distribution? So for me, I hate prototype building. I'm not good at it. They don't look good. They look like crap. And the process of cutting in, putting everything on the cards, I'm fine putting everything in the spreadsheet and okay, this is how that card's gonna work, and this. But going and put them on the cards and doing it's just such tedious work. Maybe that's not the hardest, but the hardest is probably deciding when it's ready and when it's done, or knowing how many to print. A lot of these different challenges that have real dollar cost implications. So publishing it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I believe it. So Kabuki Kid wants to know, is there a dream IP that you would like to design a game for? You can have any IP. What would you want?
Any IP? I don't know. This is what popped in my head, so I'm just gonna say Like, I don't know why. It's like, it's I'm not even sure it's a great movie, but I love Flash Gordon, man. So, like, if I could do a Flash Gordon game, I think that would be pretty cool.
I would play that. That sounds actually really fun.
Yeah.
All right, and then your next question. Do you design one thing at a time, or are you one of those people with like 10 games on the shelf that you pull down and work on bit by bit?
I definitely don't. I have designs in different stages at any given time. I'd say a great percentage of them don't get past sort of that first round, and then even before that, tons of ideas. And some of it's not necessarily that they're not good ideas or that they're not playtesting well or anything like that. It's just a matter of time. So have to prioritize and focus on what we want to do. So yes, I mean we have lots of different designs and things. Oops, kick the camera there. But yeah, I'd say once we sort of hone in on one, we sort of stick on that. But we, as a company, I mean, we have multiple designs going between us at once.
Nice. So you started as just a one-man operation, right? Like you designed Hostage Negotiator yourself. So as you've expanded, how has that impacted you as a designer, as a publisher, and what is your vision for continued expansion for Van Ryder?
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about this a couple nights ago. It's pretty surreal. If you would have told me where I and the company would be, even 5 years ago, I probably would have thought you were crazy. But yes, so I definitely started as a one-man show. I was, I guess, lucky enough to have sort of started up everything when Kickstarter was still pretty young, especially for board games. And we have sort of grown along with, obviously not to the same extent Kickstarter itself has grown, but like we've sort of grown with it. And I think maybe there's a handful of companies that were around back then that are still around, and we're one of them. So pretty proud of that. We have, including myself, 6 employees now that work, 4 full-time and 2 part-time here. And we have our own office, which I'm in right now, and we're able to make it work. And so it's really thrilling, and it's my dream job. I never thought I'd be able to do something like this for a living. So it's very humbling, and not a day goes by that I'm not thankful and grateful for it. So yeah, it's amazing.
I'm happy for you and for my game shelf. So Darren has a question. Have you ever made a big mistake during a game's development that was fixable but also caused major backtracking?
During development, I think so. I'll say 2 things that I think were mistakes, having hindsight. One, Salvation Road is a post-apocalyptic themed game, cooperative game, heavily inspired by Mad Max Road Warrior that we made a few years back. And I pushed really hard and pushed the designers really hard. I wanted the game to be very difficult, because I was convinced that solo gamers really want a game that they don't win all the time. And so I really wanted a 40% win rate, and I think that was a mistake. There was actually a thread in a board game designer Facebook group recently, and someone asked the question, hey, what's a good win rate for a solo game? And someone made the comment that solo gamers will tell you they want to win about 50% of the time, but they actually want to win 80% of the time. And I was like, yes, like that is 100% true. And they want it, if it's, as long as it feels close, that's fine. But like I've found, and even Hostage gets this feedback, that if people, if they feel like, if they don't win a lot, it's the game's fault, or it's broken, or the dice, there's too much luck, or whatever. It's anything but my actual play is why I lost. Like it's and that's human nature, right? Like I don't fault anyone for that. I probably do that too. But yeah, so like I really think that's true that solo gamers, they want to win more than they lose, and but they will say that they really want the game to be hard and to be a challenge. So balancing that, I think, is and we're using that to inform new things like Final Girl. Probably is not going to be, in my opinion, as hard as Hostages, but you still get these amazing like stories, on the table, and it is fun to win, and you're gonna probably win more than you lose in that game. But every single game, there's gonna be really cool thematic emergent moments. So that's one, and then the other one is with the big score. And I know, Liz, you did a playthrough of the solo of that.
I did.
So thanks for that. With that game, we made this is, I guess, more of a production mistake than it's both, because the designers of that game they're actually friends of ours, and they very much wanted there to be enough tokens in the game such that there's always enough tokens, even in the extremes, where like if all the hard drive jobs got done by every player, there'd be enough tokens. And it's just not even close to, like, if you think of a standard deviation bell curve. I mean, we're talking about 2 standard deviations out, and we did that, and it essentially made the game, it's a little bit overproduced from the standpoint of there's like way more tokens than you're ever going to use in that game, which has real cost impacts. That game, it would have been great if we could have made it a $40 game instead of a $50 game. And I think that was definitely a learning experience for me with that game. So those are 2 sort of examples for you.
So I'm going to ask, just because I feel like making trouble tonight, what can I say? I'll ask. So you talk about seeing feedback. To what extent I'm a reviewer, so my whole job is giving unsolicited feedback to people that they may or may not care about. So as from the publishing end, how much do reviews actually matter to you? And what do you put stock in? What do you ignore? It's okay if you ignore me. I have no problem.
No, it's a great question. I think that, any publisher worth their salt is going to say, I mean, obviously we like positive reviews, but really what I like and what we should all like is quality reviews. Like, it's pretty evident. Like, so as the publisher, we know the game better than, and as the designer, we know the game better than anyone. So it's not hard when a review comes out to know and be able to tell if the reviewer actually sort of did the work and did enough to understand the game and like know the rules, and there's all different levels of that, right? Like, everyone's gonna miss a rule from time to time. It happens. And that just because you miss a rule, I'm not saying that means it's not a good review. I'm just saying the quality of the thought that goes into it, right? Like, are you thinking about what the intent of the design is and who it's for, right? Like, if you're reviewing a family game and you're like, this game doesn't have any meat on the bones, and it's, I'm too smart for this, like, you miss the point. Like, you miss the point, right? So right. It's really just, to me, like, did you put in the effort to understand the game and give it a fair shake and call out what you didn't like, right, and why, and like, or even if you think I don't like this rule or this was a mistake and here's why. Like, your opinions are as valid as anyone's, and as a reviewer, that's what your audience is there for, is your opinion. So yeah, and quality's, I guess, subjective, but I think that Dice Tower folks and the ones that last and hang around and grow the audiences are the ones that do that the best, and they grow their audience and brand because their viewers trust them. And sometimes it's like, you see it all the time. I find that if Tom Vassell doesn't like a game, I do like it. Or Z Garcia's game, if he doesn't like it, I like it. Or if he does, I like. Like, people find whose tastes they match. and don't. So yeah, I think that we definitely care about reviews, and we want positive reviews, but we obviously, like, it's very important to us that the reviewer be able to sort of give their unbridled opinion and not have to worry about, oh, AJ's not going to send me the next game if I didn't like this one. That's not true at all. But if you play the game once and it's clear that you didn't like really get into how the game works and some of this and didn't put a lot of thought into the review, even if you liked it, like, we may not, we'll probably pass on that for next time, or maybe give them another chance. But it's the ones that, for us, it's the ones we build relationships with that I find the most valuable. We want relationships with the reviewers because we care about what they're doing, and we want them to care about what we're doing. But yeah, it's their ability to be able to remain unbiased but still have relationships with the reviewers is important.
Nice. That's a good answer. All right. So Kabuki Kid asks, so I assume you have a love of graphic novels from the game books you put out. What are your favorite comic books or graphic novels?
I mean, I read a lot of The Walking Dead before there was a show. That I wasn't. It was okay, the show, but I really love the books. At least I'm not up to date on it, but I really like that one. I don't read a ton. I mean, the reason I love the graphic novel adventure books is more like I love choose your own adventures and like fighting fantasy. The game books, like, that's really if Evan was here or Sean, they're pretty big in graphic novels. So they'd probably be able to give you something better than what I do.
Fair enough. All right, Lego Assassin wants to know, there's a fairly small group of people that choose to be both an active designer and publisher. How did you end up doing both, and do you enjoy both roles?
Oh man, I got distracted by that name, Lego Assassin.
Yes.
That's awesome. I gotta know if there's a story behind that. So yeah, I think it's pretty rare for someone to do both designing and publishing. I have a very strong sort of entrepreneurial mind and business brain. I have an MBA, so I had all this before I started designing, and designing sort of led into, and like I said earlier with Kickstarter, it sort of led to an opportunity where I could use those business skills to put a product out. And then over time, with being pretty good at that stuff and being able to sort of put it all together, I'm able to do both. But at this point now, it's very much a team thing. I depend on Evan and Scott, our graphic designer, a ton for a lot of things, and Sean and Byron with for our sales things. But we all of us have roles in the design and development aspects, because that's a lot of the fun, right? Is we're doing all this stuff in games. Like, yes, I'm really good at logistics and project management to an extent, but is that where I could do that at a Fortune, or a corporation, which I did previously, but like there's no games there, so like that's the fun side. So being able to marry all that together, I think is good. And I think why that's a challenge for a lot of designers is because there's so much that goes into publishing, and when you're making a game, designing a game, one, you don't want to necessarily think about all that stuff. But two, I think just a lot of creatives, they're by their nature, they're not as equipped, I guess, to be able to do all that stuff. But I mean, it can certainly be done. There's lots of Ryan Lockett does everything himself almost, it seems, and what's his name, Isaac, with Cephalofair. So there's it's definitely doable, and there are a lot of people out there, but I think a lot of designers just want to be designing games and not have to worry about all that other boring stuff.
All right, so speaking of your business side, Mar has a question, which is, where did the name Van Ryder Games come from? Can't seem to find the answer via Google.
Yeah, so that actually is when I started this whole thing a while back. I was talking to my wife, and I was like, "We need a business name, or I need a business name. What am I going to call it?" And she actually suggested, "Well, what if you sort of named it after something with the kids or whatever?" And at the time, we now have 3 sons, but at the time we had 2. And my oldest middle name is Vance, after my father, and my second is Ryder, which isn't named after anyone, but that was his middle name. And she said, "Well, what about Vance Ryder?" And I was like, "Yeah, like doesn't have the best ring to it." But I was like, "Well, what if we shorten Van Ryder? That's kind of a fun play, on words, but it's also our kid's middle name." So that's where it came from.
Aw, that's adorable.
Now I have my 3rd son. We're always joking, like, we'll have to do some product line. His middle name is Parker, so maybe we'll do, a Parker line of games. I don't know, something. But probably not, but we talk about that sometimes.
Oh, I like that. Oh, Lego Assassin, by the way, has solved the mystery before I ask you another question tonight. So he says, "I've loved Legos and Assassin's Creed since I was young, though I definitely did break/assassinate models. Just rebuilt my 2006 Star Destroyer a couple months ago."
Oh wow, that's amazing. I don't know, Liz, if you know. You probably do. Vince Vergengine from Lucky Duck.
You know what? I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, he owns and runs Lucky Duck games. He lives in Poland, and yeah, he was just on Facebook. He and his kids built the Star Destroyer, so that was kind of fun to see. So that's a massive model. Ask them if they're gonna hang it from the ceiling.
Lego Assassin, are you gonna hang it from the ceiling? We need to know. Inquiring minds. All right, and in the meantime, Kabuki Kid asks, "What is the best thing you've read recently? What's an all-time favorite book/author?"
Oh, so I'm like one of these readers that, like, I'll go months or sometimes maybe even years without like reading a book, and then I'll go read some. I guess I should say fiction books. I do a lot of consumption, I guess, online now. I read, I tried to read, I loved Brandon Sanderson's Steelheart, The Reckoners. Man, those were awesome. And so my friend was like a huge Brandon Sanderson fan, and he was like, "You got to read Mistborn." And so, like, I'm like 3/4 of the way through Mistborn, and I don't know. It's just not grabbing me like a Reckoners would. Maybe my tiny brain is more, for the easier read of the Reckoner series. But so that I've kind of been reading that for a while, and then I have a book at home I read sometimes at night. It's called Big Whiskey, and it just has like all the bourbons and everything you could ever want to know about all the different brands of bourbon and whiskey. Being here in Tennessee and Kentucky, just at north, I'm sort of in the heart of whiskey land. So I read that one. Got a bug. I read that one a lot too.
Nice. All right, so I'll give you a piece of advice and then one more question to cap off the night. Which Sidesmore says your 3rd son's middle name should have been Games. And Board Games and Neuramas.
Why let that one go? But you're not wrong.
So we want to know, any new games from Van Ryder coming out at Essenspiel Digital? Can you give us some spoilers? Or is it all a secret?
So we did Essen last year. Was our first time being at the show and having a booth, and it was good. I guess the sales were maybe a little lighter than we had thought, just based on how good our Gen Cons are and things like that. But anyway, all that to say, I don't know. I don't think we necessarily have a planned new release for Essen, and especially with this whole year just getting thrown completely out of whack.
Yeah.
We're not worried too much about releasing alongside conventions. I mean, we have a bunch of new products coming out right now because they would be coming out for Gen Con, and that's when we launch a lot of stuff. So we do try to do convention releases, but just the way our cycle is and how our sort of business is very heavily Kickstarter centric, we're going pretty hard on Final Girl right now. I mean, Smoke and Mirrors may end up being out around that time, and that's Detective Smoke and Mirrors, which is the second expansion for Detective City of Angels, which we haven't talked about, but is amazing. And you guys
yes.
go check it out. It just won the Dice Tower Most Innovative Game of 2019, actually, which probably, hopefully, all the viewers know, since this is the Dice Tower channel. But yeah, that might be coming out around then, and we may have a surprise, but that's really all I can say right now.
Fair enough. So, for the record, my own review of Detective City of Angels is very positive. I really like that one. And the cap of the night. Lego Assassin wants us to know, no plans yet, but it sits atop its throne on my board gaming bookshelf with my 2015 Lego Millennium Falcon. Well, Lego Assassin,
very awesome
home decorating advice tonight from us. AJ, thank you so much for coming on here. I had a blast getting to just hang out with you for a bit.
Oh yeah, it was great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you everybody in the chat. Stay safe, have a good night, and we'll see y'all next time.